Hello guys, it's Jonathan here doing another Beyblade unboxing. This time we have CobaltDragoon 2-60C Cyclone. So this is the newest Beyblade X release, or at least one of them. And our first left spin bay, so very, very cool to finally see a left spin bay for Beyblade X. So I'll go and open up this box, and then we'll go through every single, thing that comes in it. Alright, so first up here we have the, instructions, but whatever. Anyway, moving on to the more important stuff. First up here we do have the new string launcher. This is, of course, the left spin string launcher, so pretty cool. Got the L's there, that's interesting, so yeah, anyway. Black string, the length of the string, by the way, it's the same as the normal one, so no differences there. But it has a bit of a different design up here. I actually like how this one looks. Don't know if I like it more than the regular one or not. Probably about the same, honestly. Interesting design for sure, though. But anyway, let's go and move on to the actual bay itself. We'll start from bottom to top, starting with the bits, and that is, of course, Cyclone. I actually thought this was going to be a lighter blue, but it's actually a darker blue, which is interesting. Actually fix my focus here. But, it's a darker blue, kind of a left spin type of pattern. We saw this with things like left flat in Metal Fight, Spiral in Burst, and now Cyclone in X. So yeah, I mean it's a bit. I mean, not overly interesting. These types of things have never been overly interesting. The typical, left pattern, but I mean, it exists, so sure, why not? Anyway, moving on to the ratchet here, we have 260. Have not heard the best things about this, and I can immediately see why. I'm not too into competitive, but I can tell that, like, having two large, blocky looking protrusions, just two of them especially, that just seems like a recipe for bursting constantly. Could also see some potential scraping on these. They do stick down a bit. I don't like this design very much. I think if you want to have a ratchet that kind of has protrusions going down a bit, that's fine, but I think it's better as a defensive ratchet. Something like a 760 from the upcoming Leon Crest, if that did it, I wouldn't be mad, because it's kind of meant to be a wall. This, I feel like, is more of an attack-oriented ratchet, and it's not great to have that, I feel. It doesn't stick down horribly, but I mean, it's still, not great looking. So yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's not great, but I don't imagine this being good at all. Anyway, moving on to the blade. We'll come back to the ratchet later when we talk about like the overall bay. But moving on to the blade, though, we do have here CobaltDragoon. Looks really, really cool, actually. Not sure about the opaque blue underneath here. I kind of wish that was translucent, but it is what it is, I guess. And then there is, of course, the translucent red gear chip. Gear chip sticker looks pretty cool, though, so that's nice. Overall, a pretty solid looking blade. Of course, our first left spin blade as well. Of course, you could tell by the bait. I mean, it's left spin. Yeah, it does look nice. I will say I do wish this was painted. I think if this was painted like a dark blue, like Cobalt Drake, I think we would be having a much better bay on our hands visually. But well, that's not the case. Before we get to the full bay and talk about, everything with it, let's go ahead and do the weights. So let's turn that on. Fix that, okay. So I imagine these are just going to be normal Cyclone in 2.11, that's standard ratchet 260, 6.16. Now let's see the big question here. How heavy is CobaltDragoon? 37.66, fairly heavy. That's a good weight for sure. And just for the sake of it, here is the total weight. Even without the bit, it's already like a decent weight. But with the bit, yeah, 45.92. Definitely a very, very solid weight for this bay. So yeah, now with the ratchet, I believe you have to do this the opposite way. Let me fix the focus real quick. But I think you have to do this the opposite way for left spins, which is interesting. But I don't, there, yeah, you have to go that way instead. Okay. So yeah, you can switch the ratchets around. And ratchets, by the way, they're universal, so any old ratchet you can twist, you know, while detached from anything, and then you could, you know, put it on a left spin bay just fine. So you can change the modes effectively over any ratchet you want. These are all LR effectively, so very, very nice. Anyway, let's put the bit in as well. And with that, we do have our first left spin bay. Now, fully assembled. So there is CobaltDragoon 2-60C Cyclone. Looks pretty good. Comparing it to Cobalt Drake, which I do have here. Yeah, comparing it to Cobalt Drake, let's see, they look pretty different. And underneath, yeah, the ratchets are pretty similar color-wise, but yeah, the bits, this one's a bit more purple and this one's a bit more blue, so yeah. Of course, this is right spin, this is left spin. By the way, actually, this is not the second time we've seen this. Obviously, Dragoon started as right spin, became left spin. But this isn't actually the third time we've seen it. The second one was actually in Burst with Apollos, a pretty obscure motif. It was part of the Duo Eclipse bays, Apollos, the Sun one. That one, Duo Apollos was right spin, left Apollos was left spin, which makes sense. They want to make Eclipse, you know, LR effectively, but technically the motif itself went from right to left, so it is the second time we saw it. This is the third time. Just wanted to get that out there. I feel like a lot of people might just think it was, you know, Dragoon and now this, but yeah, it's actually the third time it's happened. Not counting base going from normal to like LR or something, but yeah, anyway. So moving that aside, CobaltDragoon. First, I do like the name actually. I thought it was going to be like something Drake. I'm actually very glad they opted to not go with Drake. Didn't really like that name a whole lot as a motif name. So CobaltDragoon being the name is actually good. I actually prefer that. So yeah. Aside from that, yeah, this bay, pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and rate this thing. Of course, I have my two different ratings. You know, the physical rating and then the conceptual rating. So physically speaking, what do I think about CobaltDragoon as a bay? I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's good. If this was painted and maybe some of the colors were corrected a bit to properly accommodate said paint, I think that this thing would be much, much higher. I think that this is this would really move up quite a bit if this was painted. And again, if the colors were accommodated to match the paint, I think this is potential 10. Yeah, we could be looking at a 10, if not 9. But without paint, 7. It's still good though, but not as good as it could have been. As far as my conceptual rating goes, I think I'm also feeling a 7 on this one. It's good. It's our first left spin, so it's already a pretty big deal right there. I mean, of course, Cyclone, plays into that, being kind of a left pattern flat, which makes sense. 260 is pretty vague, I feel. I mean, a two-sided ratchet that could literally work on any even-sided bay, really. It's not that interesting. It doesn't really do a whole lot with the motif, I feel. And again, kind of the fact that it feels a bit lower, the contact points on the ratchet, I feel like that doesn't really work the best here, but yeah, I would maybe rate this a little bit higher, but I don't think there's anything else really going on with this bay aside from just being a left spin bay. I just don't feel like anything else is really notable enough about it. So now, being our first left spin bay itself, that's already a pretty big deal. So I'm still giving it a good score of a 7, but I wish maybe there's a little bit more here. Maybe a rubber flat would have been nice to see here, or just a bit more to the bay. I think would have really helped this thing out. But just being kind of a basic attacker that just happens to also be left spin, it's still good. It's still a new idea for Beyblade X. We're a year in at this point. First left spins, it's a big deal, so it's something. But I think that's everything I have to really say about Cobalt Dragoon. It's a nice bay. I do like it, but I don't think it's anything overly special in terms of, its design or concept, really, aside from just being a left spin. But let's be real, we were going to get a left spin at some point, so it's not that big of a shock either, so yeah, that's really all to say about it. So, anyways, it's good, but nothing too crazy in my opinion. Again, I don't do battles, so I'm not really talking about, how left spins interact and whatnot, so that could be a whole new dimension of Beyblade X, and that, I mean, that could be, more interesting, but for me, it's just good. So, anyways, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.